Coming up now on your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, did WWE want to make Adam Cole a manager? Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay traded shots on social media, and we've got more on Bryan Danielson's decision to sign with AEW. All that and more on your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown. This is just a reminder that we omit any news or information which could potentially spoil the results, angles, storylines, or surprise debuts taking place in professional wrestling. If you appreciate this type of wrestling coverage, please consider subscribing, clicking the notifications bell, and sharing this video with friends. Some unfortunate news for Triple H came out yesterday. WWE released a statement and sent out a press release stating that Triple H had undergone surgery following a cardiac event. Here is what WWE sent out. Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, underwent a successful procedure last week at Yale New Haven Hospital following a cardiac event. The episode was caused by a genetic heart issue, and Paul is expected to make a full recovery. So we definitely send our best wishes out to Triple H as he recovers following surgery to correct a genetic heart issue. We noted in yesterday's video that Kenny Omega is the number one ranked wrestler in this year's Pro Wrestling Illustrated Top 500. Well, shortly after that news came out, he engaged in a bit of a Twitter back and forth with Will Ospreay. Ospreay responded to a tweet that listed off the top 10 wrestlers in the PWI Top 500 this year. And here is what Ospreay had to say. Ospreay wrote, "I'd beat up number one any day of the week and twice on Wednesdays, just saying." Will Ospreay, who of course came in at number 7 on that list. Kenny Omega then responded to Ospreay's comments. He said, "Your promotion has been so ice cold since I left that not even Meltzer can convince his followers that you were part of any BITW conversation. It hurts me, bruv. One of you dorks should have been the guy. Turned out a bigger dog was my only competition." Oof. Ospreay then responded, "Last chat we had was you need to be the guy." That's what Ospreay says Omega said to him before Omega left. Since then you left, we sold out MSG, sold more tickets at the Tokyo Dome than ever before, and put on banger after banger. A pandemic put the brakes on, and you know it. Open that door. Let's have this conversation. So is there something brewing between Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega? More has come out recently regarding Bryan Danielson's negotiations with WWE before ultimately deciding to leave the company and sign with AEW. According to comments made by Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, being able to wrestle in New Japan Pro Wrestling was a big factor for Bryan Danielson. He really wants to be able to do that. Well, according to Meltzer's comments, WWE was going to allow Danielson to wrestle for New Japan and wrestle with WWE at the same time. Here is what Meltzer had to say about what WWE was offering Danielson. He said, "Both offers were money-wise similar, and both would have allowed him to do New Japan. WWE was going to allow him to do New Japan, and he was trying to open the door for other people in WWE that wanted to go to New Japan to be able to do that, but that seems to be a dead issue right now from a WWE standpoint." The report also continued to say that part of Danielson's reasons for deciding to sign with AEW rather than WWE has to do with what he felt was the best thing for the wrestling industry overall. Meltzer compared this to when Mick Foley decided to sign with TNA, thinking that giving TNA a leg up and helping to create competition in the industry is ultimately what is best for it. Here is what Meltzer had to say. "Danielson may have felt like Mick Foley did many years ago when he went to TNA, and that the best thing for the industry is competition at a high level. Mick Foley went to TNA years ago for that reason. For the industry as a whole, if competition is one of the key things, then going to AEW would obviously be a big part of that as well. So that was a factor." More has come out recently regarding Adam Cole's discussions with WWE before he ultimately decided to leave the company and sign with AEW. Now, it had been reported before Cole left that he had spoken with Vince McMahon, and there were discussions about what Adam Cole would do if he was moved to the main roster. Well, according to comments by Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE's pitch to Cole was to turn him into something of a manager and pair him up with Keith Lee. Here is what Dave Meltzer said. They were going to bring him up. The idea was to turn Keith Lee heel, have Adam Cole be his manager, probably with a different name because of the last name Cole and its main roster and Michael Cole, and you know how that goes. And so Meltzer continued to say that they were looking to do something with Adam Cole and Keith Lee that was similar to the dynamic that Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley had. Meltzer continued, that was kind of the dynamic they were looking for from him, more of a manager than a wrestler. And it would also be said that these were not ideas coming from the creative team, but rather it was Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard's idea that Adam Cole would be something of a manager, or more of a manager than a wrestler, on the main roster. Everything to do with television ratings has been pushed back a day this week because of Labor Day. So we're just getting the ratings for this week's Raw now. They're up on your screen. So for the September 6th show, the show averaged 1,845,000 viewers, which is down 62,000 from the previous week, and they did a .52 in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic. So that is below what they were doing for most of August with all the SummerSlam hype. You have to go back to the August 9th episode when Raw did a little bit lower. They were up against college football this week, however, so that would have factored into things as well. After it had been rumored for a few weeks that AEW was looking to run studio tapings, they have announced today, on just 2 days' notice, that they are going to run tapings this Saturday from Orlando's Universal Studios in Florida. They will be running 2 sets of tapings on Saturday. The first will run from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. The second from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And this is going to be something that they do fairly regularly now that they are back out on the road and also taping episodes of Rampage. So the taping schedule for AEW most weeks would be filming AEW Dark Elevation before Dynamite, then airing Dynamite Live from 8 to 10 Wednesdays, and then taping Rampage from 10 to 11 on Wednesday nights, then airing Rampage Friday nights at 10 p.m., and AEW Dark from the Universal Studios in Orlando. They will be running Rampage live roughly once a month. They have a live Rampage scheduled for Miami next month, and another live episode of Rampage scheduled from St. Louis in November. And finally, the last thing that we are going to cover in this video, Impact Wrestling presents a show tonight on Access TV, also available for YouTube Impact Insiders. Here is what they've got scheduled for the show. Bullet Club's Chris Bay will take on FinJuice's David Finlay. Moose will take on Eddie Edwards. Rich Swann will take on Carl Anderson in a bunkhouse brawl. Steve Macklin will take on P.D. Williams, and Rosemary will take on Tasha Steelz. That's all tonight on Impact. And with that, you are completely up to date on everything that's making headlines in the world of professional wrestling, minus anything which could potentially spoil future storylines, angles, match results, or surprise debuts for you. I'm your host, Gentleman Ian, for Spoiler Free Wrestling.